Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Unlock Your Superpower podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Meta, and I'm here with my co-host.
Veronica Joseph.
And we are so delighted and excited because we have a very special guest with us today. She is an amazing relationship coach. She's one of the reasons why I keep getting in and out of relationships because she keeps me on track, making sure that I fall in love with the right person. And she's none other than my dear friend, Miss Susan Shepard, who is also an international bestselling author, an NLP trainer, and so much more. And not to mention a registered nurse of 40 years in the emergency department. And now she said, sayonara to the nursing world. Let me help beautiful single people like Veronica and I fall in love with ourselves and others. So please help me welcome Miss Susan Shepard to the beautiful stage. Hi, Susan. Welcome.
Hi, ladies. How are you?
We're good. We're
Such an
So
so
happy
honor.
to be here with you.
and so we
Yes,
are.
we are so excited.
So my first question, Susan, is how can you help single people find the right person?
Well, my choice is to work with single people, particularly single people who've had bad experiences and who have had serial bad relationships with the same person in different bodies. You all understand what that means, right?
Correct. Yeah. So
Okay. So I used to work with married people, but I quit working with married people because I started doing this work to decrease the divorce rate, not increase it. And when I worked with married people and I made them tell the truth to each other, most of them got divorced because they never should have got married in the first place.
Oh my goodness. Well, way to be the change you wish to see in the world, like reducing the divorce rate. Because did you know Orange County, California has 50% divorce rates, and California is the highest state to have divorces, which is why you can't change your middle name when you get married. You can only change your last name. And in the Indian culture, you have to change your middle name and your last name based on the person that you marry. So when my sister decided to get married, she could only change her last name. And she's like, well, that doesn't make sense. So what did she end up doing? She ended up keeping her own identity. And I had no idea because of the divorce rates in the state of California. So that is such great insight.
Oh, I didn't know that at all.
now
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, since when we have relationship, we try to connect with them in a several level: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, or soul to soul. Or whoever relationship we ended up, sometimes it's a reflection of our own self, right? It could be a projection, or if there's something within ourselves that we needed to work on, like for instance, insecurity or feeling not good enough, we're gonna find someone that possibly have the same issue, and what happened is it's going to reflect back to us. So it's a possible that sometimes it reflect to us, and so in that case we have to be aware, right? Whether is it ours that we have to work on as far as insecurity,
You're
or
making it way
is
too
it
complicated.
them, projecting that they have their own problems, right?
You're making this way too complicated.
So how do you make it simple?
Well, I have a system that I started using. Well, now it's 35 years ago.
Mhm.
I developed the system with my very first client, and it's called Love with Class, and it's a mnemonic, CLASS. C stands for clarity, and that's the first thing you have to decide when you're choosing to enter a relationship is, what do you want? What kind of relationship do you want? Do you want to get married? Do you want to have a boyfriend? Do you want to have a booty call? Do you want to just have a friend? I mean, you have to really have clarity about what's the lifestyle you want to live, and what do you really want? And in my experience, most women don't know what they want. They have a sense of it. They think they know what they want, and they all tell me, usually, I'll know it when I see it. And that is really It's a flawed way of looking at it. So the very first step in my process is to get my new clients to know themselves first. So they do some work to learn what their values are, their highest values, and what is it they really want, and what's their idea of success, and what would success mean to them. So that's the very first step is in my process is clarity. The second step is L, and it stands for love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, you can't possibly love someone else. So, and part of the issue is that people have idealistic ideas about who they're going to choose. And most women don't understand that women do the choosing. They all think that men do the choosing, and they have to wait for men to act in order for them to have a relationship. But that's not true at all. The fact of the matter is that women do the choosing and the ending of all relationships. They're the ones who decide. And, men think they do, and we let them think they do. Why not let them think they do? But the truth is, if you're going to meet somebody, a man will not approach you until you give him a signal. And maybe that signal is just smiling at him, or looking him in the eyes and smiling at him, or giving them a nod, or opening your mouth and saying something, even if it's, isn't the sky in this elevator blue today? Which doesn't make any sense at all, but it is a statement that allows someone to talk to you. Because if you want to meet somebody, just open your mouth and say something in their presence. And if they are interested, they will. So the love yourself step it can be deemed controversial by a lot of people, because what I do is I tell people, you have to expand your perception of who's out there for you. Because generally speaking, in the world, what has happened is people get disappointed and disillusioned, and they start out open like this. And as they get disappointed, they shut down a little and a little more and a little more and a little more. And then they're looking for someone that meets this tiny description right here, who doesn't exist. And what my process is to open them up again, to have people step outside their comfort zone, meet people they never would have spoken to in their life before, people that they weren't even attracted to, and find out who are these people, and speak to them about what gets them up in the morning, what excites them, what is their passion in life. Now, I don't tell people to go date these people. I tell them to go do research, meet 40 people who are outside your comfort zone that you're not necessarily attracted to, and find out what makes them tick. And what happens then is it opens up pathways in your brain to allow you to choose someone outside of this little nugget that you've narrowed yourself down to. And it's been working really, really well for 35 years. I've had a lot of success with getting people to basically reframe their perception of who's out there for them, and see people they couldn't see before because they wouldn't even consider being in relationship with them. And so that's the love yourself stuff. It's the transformational work that I do with people, and it's very original. It's work that I created with the very first client I ever had, and realized that that was what made the difference in allowing that person to basically find someone that they had known their whole life but would never have considered until the work we did. And that particular person has been married to that gentleman for 35 years now. And they have a great relationship. So that's the second step. Third step is I teach everyone how to ask for what you want in a way that you can be heard, and in a way that people want to give you what it is you're asking for. And it's a very simple little formula. It's called acknowledge, ask, and appreciate, which means you acknowledge them first. You raise the bar for what you're asking for. Acknowledge them for having delivered something you know they know how to do, because you've witnessed it. I mean, if you're asking your boss for a raise, you know that that boss has given somebody a raise in the past. And so you just say, I know how generous you've been in the past. and the way that you reward employees who work hard for you. So I'm asking you for a 10% raise. I'm making this up, obviously. and then you just wait for the results and really appreciate when they respond to you in a positive way. But that little formula can be used on anyone. It can be used on your children and your grandchildren and your friends and your significant others and your family and just everyone. And it is not, definitely not manipulation. It really is sincerely acknowledging somebody for something you know that they're able to do, and then telling them exactly for what you want. And part of the problem with most women is they don't ever ask for exactly what they want. They hint. And men are clueless when it comes to hinting. They don't get it. I've seen so many situations where a woman will ask a man for something. And one of my favorite illustrations is, oh, I want you to take me somewhere romantic for my birthday. And that person, maybe he takes her to a football game and out for beer with the guys afterwards, because that seems romantic to him. But if you tell him, I want a romantic weekend at the beach at a bed and breakfast where we have a private jacuzzi and we can sip wine and watch the sunset, that's a specific request. But you can ask for that if it's the right person that you're with 6 months in advance, and he'll remember. But anyway, that's the ask part. The fourth step is success with the essential ingredients in a relationship. And those 3 ingredients are, what are they, Michelle?
Chemistry, compatibility, love, and respect, maybe.
Yes, that's it. Chemistry is the easy part. Everybody knows when you have chemistry, but chemistry alone is not enough. And the reason we have a divorce rate that's so high is because people get married strictly for chemistry, and they don't look any further. They don't look into what are the compatibilities. And compatibilities have more to do with your values and your idea of success and what is it you really want in the world, and not really avoiding deal breakers. Because what usually happens to people is they meet somebody, they have great chemistry, and they go, oh, but this person is a gambler and can gamble all our money away. But, oh, well, we can fix that later. Or maybe that'll go away, or, we can just change that later. And they ignore the red flag, and they get married anyway and end up getting divorced 20 years later because that person gambled all their life savings away. But it can be anything. A deal breaker can be anything. It can be geography. Someone lives on a farm and the other person wants to live in New York City, and they're not going to move. They don't want to move. In fact, the Golden Bachelor. Do you remember the Golden Bachelor that was on TV recently? That it's the Bachelor and Bachelorette program that's on. Well, that Golden Bachelor and his new wife that he met on the Golden Bachelor, they got married for chemistry and probably love with respect, but they didn't consider the compatibilities. And so they got married right after that show and got divorced 4 months later, because neither one of them wanted to leave where they were living because of their grandchildren. So compatibility is a real serious flaw that people tend to ignore. They don't pay attention to their compatibility, and it has to do with lifestyle. It has to do with lifestyle. It has to do with having children. It has to do with where you want to live. It has to do with your values, and pretty much everything. And the last piece is love with respect, because you can love someone and not respect them. You can respect someone and not love them. And if you don't have both, actually you need all of those ingredients, or at some point the relationship will fail. So
Well, and that brings up a good point to them, because a lot of celebrities, they divorce over the term irreconcilable differences. Irreconcilable differences. And it's like, we don't really know what those differences are. Some wants to be a mom, some wants to be a dad, but either one of them don't want to be a parent at the same time. I mean, we've seen that
right.
Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt. We've seen that with Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. I mean, just to give out some examples, but that is something that is prevalent in
Yeah.
that
And it's
situation.
usually compatibility that ends up causing a divorce, or somebody cheats. That's the love with respect. If somebody cheats, it's that they don't have the respect for each other, because that's what cheating is all about, is that you have no respect for the other person and you go out and cheat. The final step is called step up and step out, which means if you've done all the work that I've given you to do in those first 4 steps, you're ready as a woman to go out and choose a mate. Now, if you're a man doing this work, the best thing you can do is get in front of the woman you want to choose and let her choose you, because the women do the choosing. So that's my story. That's what I do.
And I love that. And Veronica, I don't know if you know this, but in 2021, I met with Susan because of a referral that I had a couple other friends refer me out. And she gave me this project. And prior to meeting Susan, I used to only date Indian men because that's all I knew.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm only going to date Indian men. And so she told me first thing is that you cannot date anyone that is brown. That includes Indian men, that includes anyone from the Indian subcontinent. You have to go and expand. And at first I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like I was mad at her with her at first, but I said, you know what? Maybe I'll give it a shot. She goes, you're not dating them. You're doing market research. And in this case, when you're doing market research, honesty really helps because I told every guy that I went on this project with, I said, look, I'm doing market research. And until I hit number 40, I can't ask you out again. And you can't ask me out again. And they're like, well, what number am I? And I was like, you're number 5. So forever, they were all 5. But I had moved up the ladder because if I told them they were 25 or 35 or 37, closer to 40, they were like going to get their hopes up. And I knew that if I went on a date again with them, I would A, break Susan's rule. B, I would be doing myself a disservice. And so doing that 40 people, not only did it give me confidence in asking for what I want, but I got to realize how much non-Indian people appreciate the Indian culture, which I had my blinders on. And it made me get even more confident letting people know, like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a life coach. Oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, I just recently became a TEDx speaker. Oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, I recently had my book come out. And all of that stuff gave me confidence to not shy away from my achievements, because sometimes as women we don't own our gifts. So this 40 people project actually helped me own my gifts even more. And so that's why I was like, we got to have Susan Shepherd on our call to help you understand that relationship isn't about you and others. It's about you and yourself first and foremost.
Yeah.
Know who you are, like know thyself. And so, I really appreciate this class system. I don't even think I'm at the bottom of that S yet because I still got a lot of inner work to do. Especially because it is a time consuming project and you don't realize the trauma that has come from bad relationships or bad conversations. And that carries on into the insecurity that you were talking about.
I have a quick question. I mean, I
Sure.
appreciate you sharing your story, Michelle. So, in these days when people are so busy, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can we come up with 40 people to do the market research? How can we meet these people? I mean, other
So,
than,
so let me
like
ask you a
maybe,
question.
yeah,
Do you ever go anywhere?
that's the key, is that
So my rule number 1 is you must leave the house. You have to leave the house. You have to go out. You have to go places, and you have to participate in things in order to meet people. But you can meet a stranger at a bus stop and have a conversation with them and learn enough about them in the 10 minutes you're waiting for a bus that you could actually answer all the questions I ask you to find out. The questions are easy. They really are. It's like, what's your highest value? And in a conversation with someone, they reveal that to you. How do you really treat the opposite sex? You just watch how they react to people. If someone gets on a bus and there's a woman bus driver, is this man polite to that woman bus driver? Or you're in a restaurant, how does he treat the waitress or the girl who takes you to the table? And in a very short conversation. I mean, I've done it. I've been doing it for a long time. Obviously, I've been doing it for 35 years, so I can do it in minutes. But I did it once to, to one of the checkers who was checking me out at TJ Maxx. I bought 4 items, and you know how they have a long line, and you're waiting in this long line. And I got up there, and I had a conversation with the gentleman who was checking me out, and I got the answers to all the questions in a matter of 2 minutes that I was there checking out. So it it's not that you have to have a long-term relationship with anybody. It's just you need a conversation, a real conversation, an authentic, vulnerable conversation where you ask whatever occurs to you and not worry about what that person is going to think about what you asked them. To really be open and receptive and honest and vulnerable, part of the process, the transformational process that all of my clients go through, is they develop a relationship with themselves and they realize that they have been using their mask to interact with someone else's mask, and they never get to meet the real person, and they never get to show that person who they really are, because we all have a persona that we project that's out there. And when you go out there and you meet a stranger, you've got your persona on. You're not being authentic. You're just trying to be as impressive as you can. And so you can have a conversation with anyone. With one of my favorite places to have conversations is a grocery store.
But that's
Grocery
gonna be
store.
tough, right? It's gonna be hard for people
No,
that
it's
are
not
so
hard.
shy to ask, to start the conversation.
Starting a conversation is really easy. All you have to do is say something, anything. Say anything. You could say to somebody that you're walking down the street and you see somebody and you think, that would be interesting to talk to that person. You stop them and say, I really like that tie you're wearing. What color is that? Or where did you get it? You can start a conversation with anything, and then you just have a conversation with them. If they don't respond to you, it's not you they're not responding to. This is a key thing that I teach people. It's like if you try to have a conversation with somebody and they just ignore you, it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the fact that they're focused on getting somewhere and doing something else, and they cannot get distracted. So they may look like they're snubbing you, but they're not. They're focused and their attention is somewhere else. So I think Michelle has learned that, haven't you?
I believe so. And I think part of me is asking the questions beyond like, hey, how are you? Right? What are you passionate about? People love talking about themselves. Right?
Yes.
Veronica, you and I have known that part of our Unlock Your Superpower podcast is all about unlocking who we really are, asking that vulnerable questions, talking about the different modalities that you and I both teach, right, to our clients. And so it's all about people love talking about themselves. And when you just ask that icebreaker question, and we could do a whole segment on like the top icebreaker questions to ask on a date, and we can have Susan Shepard do a part 2 and a 3. We could do a whole relationship series because she has shared so much just in her class system, CLASS. And I'm going to do a quick recap, and you can help me with this one. Veronica, what's C?
That's for clarity.
Yes. L is for
It's love
Love,
yourself.
love and
love
respect,
yourself.
right? Oh, love
A is
yourself.
for A is
A
for
is for ask.
Ask, yeah.
ask. S is
Essence, success with the 3 essential ingredients: chemistry, compatibility, and love with respect. And the last S stands for step up and step out, because you're ready to go out and choose a mate.
Yeah, and this basically ties it down to the power is always within you. Women have the power. We
Yeah.
have the creativity. I mean, we are the ones that are bearing life for 9 months. We are essentially creating life. How the baby is formed is based on what we're feeding it. So we have that internal power. And
But there's
sometimes we
actually
forget.
more to it than that, really, because the truth is that men have had power in the world. They've been controlling everything forever, And right now there's a few things that are happening that may change that. But the reality is they have the power everywhere else in the world. And my point of view is, well, fine, let them have it, because women have the power in relationship. And relationship is the foundation of everything that happens in the universe. It's the foundation of politics. It's the foundation of business. It's the foundation of family. It's the foundation of love. Relationship is. So if women have the power in relationship, then let men have the power in the world. Let them have it.
I
And
love that.
and the key is we have to start with our own selves, to have a relationship with our own selves, because
Well,
if we're
one
not
of,
happy with our own selves, we're not going to be happy in any relationship.
exactly. One of the things that I say is that I help people become the person they need to be to attract what it is they really want. So the transformational work that I do is really supporting my clients to be authentically who they are and to own it and to love who they are, because so often, particularly women are very guilty of this. Women are very guilty of downing themselves, of not thinking they're attractive enough or smart enough or clever enough or educated enough for anyone. And men, their doubt is about their ability to produce results. They never worry about their attractiveness, or I can't say never, but most of the time, most men are not worried about whether they're attractive or not. They worry about whether they can produce enough results to impress a woman. Whereas women will go to doubt about their attractiveness or their ability to be enough. And so the work that I do with people is all about growing their self-esteem and having them own their confidence and their power, because that's really all it takes. If a woman knows that she can walk in a room anywhere and look around and go, I'd like to meet that person over there, or I'd like to talk to that person over there. And all you have to do that is walk up to them and say something. And if you've got the self-esteem and the confidence to be able to do that and realize that if they don't talk to you, it's really not about you, it's about them, then you can walk into any room anywhere and choose who you want to associate with.
That's a very good, interesting insight.
I love that. So, Susan, how do people find you?
Well, I have a website. It's susanshepard.com. It's SUSANSHEPPARD.com. And I have a couple of books that are out: How to Get What You Want from Your Man Anytime, Dating After 40, No More Excuses, and one that's about to be released any day. It's called The Art of Love with Class, CLASS. And it's that system explained in detail with a journal. It's part of a journal. And then I do have another book that's also in editing called Who's Cheating Who, all about infidelity. But on my website, if someone would like to have a conversation with me or has questions they'd like to ask, you can just go to susanshepard.com, click on Time with Susan, and make an appointment with me.
And
And I'll
as
talk to anybody.
I love that. And as a client of 3 years, someone's like, well, how come you haven't found love yet? Because you don't really realize the blockages or the filters that you have created on yourself when you're in a relationship. And so, working with Susan for the past 3.5 years, I have learned to love myself even more, especially at a time when you don't realize that there's been hidden levels of trauma, because sometimes relationship cause trauma that is undiscovered. And so, working with Susan has helped me own more of that, release more of that trauma, own more of who I am. And I think that's why this is called the Unlock Your Superpower podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Mehta, and I have with me.
Veronica Joseph. And thank you
And
so much, Susan.
And thank you so much, Susan, for being our very special guest. And, look forward to part 2 and maybe a part 3 as we dive deeper into owning the relationship and having the relationship that you want. And remember, Susan Shepard is giving a gift of her time. So make sure you visit her website to learn more. Until next time, see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for having me.
You're
It was
welcome.
a pleasure to have you.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.